At the risk of boring some of you, many of you possibly, who were at ACOL when Laura and I held a meeting 3 weeks ago, I want to go back to budget day and then just track over where we've got to and what we think we've achieved and what we haven't achieved, which is just as important. We were literally sitting in the chamber of the House of Commons when we got the message that Manston was out to consultation for closure. And the irony of that was at the very moment when the Chancellor of the Exchequer was busy advertising support for small regional airports. Timing could not have been less perfect. From that time forward, Laura and I have had one very simple, very straightforward objective. And that is to see Manston remain open as an operating airport. It really is a simple. In the course of our discussions since, some of you will know this, some of you may not, we have met with the relevant government ministers, with the Secretary of State for Transport, Pat McLaughlin, with the Minister of State for Aviation, Robert Goodwill, with Michael Fallon, the Business Minister, with the Chancellor of the Exchequer himself, and quiet words in one or two other quarters, and also 2 questions on the floor of the House, one to the Leader of the House of Commons. The profile has been raised politically. We have had a huge amount of support. This is not, and please let it not be, a party political issue. I know there are people who may want to play ping pong with it, but I'm afraid I'm not in that game. Clive Hart and I will work together on this, as he is leader of the local authority. Paul Carter and Clive and I will work together. Paul is the leader of the County Council. And we have also been working, of course, and are very grateful indeed for the support of the unions, who've been working tirelessly on behalf of their members. Somebody said to me at the last meeting, how do you feel about the way the unions are behaving? I said, they're doing their job. They're doing precisely what they are there to do, to look after their members' interests. Why do we believe so passionately about this? It's pretty straightforward, really, again. First of all, there are existing around 150 jobs at stake. Each and every one of those people is an extended family, has responsibilities, needs an income. And if there was no other reason at all, that in itself would be good enough for an elected Member of Parliament to go out and fight. At the last meeting, the ACOL meeting, there was a little girl called Francesca who was wearing a "Please Save My Daddy's Job" t-shirt. And if anything got to me, that did. I gave to Anne Gloag, when I met her in the week before Easter, a letter from Francesca. I don't know what it said. I didn't open it. It wasn't given to me opened. I handed it over. But I hope that Mrs. Gloag read it. The national interest is as important, of course. We believe, Laura and I believe, that Manston has a very significant role to play in the service of aviation in the southeast, in meeting the nation's needs in the short term while others work out what is going to be done about aviation in the southeast in the long term. It is already the case that we are losing business from London to Schiphol, to Frankfurt, to Charles de Gaulle. And it was only last week that it was announced that Dubai had overtaken Heathrow as the world's foremost hub airport. That is serious. And that's happening now, not in 20 years, Boris, time, not in 15 years, time for a new runway at Heathrow or Gatwick or whatever, but now. Manston's available now, and I'm not suggesting, and I don't know anybody sane who is suggesting that Manston should become either, the hub airport for the southeast or another London airport. But what we can do, and we are ideally placed to do, is take some of the pressure off Heathrow and Gatwick. And we've been talking over the last 3 or 4 weeks to people who would like to come to Manston, who want to move businesses, who want to move cargo flights to Manston. Quite what's been going on over the last 2.5 years, I'm not sure, but when 2 people, Laura and myself, who have no background in aviation at all, can go out and begin to identify business almost like that, then you do have to ask the question, have all the right questions been asked? And the answer's got to be no. Manston has a proud history, certainly, but it also, I believe, has the potential for a proud future. It is a major diversion field. Again, an irony, in the couple of weeks following the announcement of consultation, Manston took 2 diversion flights. There are people alive today who might not have been alive if Manston's runway hadn't been available to them. It's as simple as that. Bristow's, the search and rescue firm, want to come back, they want to bring the search and rescue helicopters back to Manston. And we need them here. Straits of Dover, the busiest sea line in the world, it's like children, the ferries going backwards and forwards across the channel are like children running across a motorway. We've always said it's a disaster waiting to happen. We need those helicopters here. The nation needs them here. It's not just Thanet. So in the local interests, in the interests of the people who are employed and the people who could be employed, and in the national interest, we believe it is absolutely vital that Manston stays open. So the name of the game has been to find a buyer with the resources, the ability to run the airport, and as important, the ability to develop the airport, to take it forward. In any deal, there has to be 2 parties. There has to be a willing seller, and there has to be a willing buyer with the money to pay a fair price. And we all need to remember, whether we like it or not, that this is a commercial operation. There is very little more that I can tell you today, because we are now in a phase of very, very delicate discussion and some negotiation, which will either succeed or fail, and that may become clear within the next 4 or 5 days. And it really is as tight and as sensitive as that. And I hope you'll forgive me if I'm normally fairly blunt. I think I normally say what I think. Just for once, I'm not going to say a very great deal. Save this. Half an hour ago, I held in my hand a letter from a significant potential investor who I am satisfied, and I may be being naive, has the money to make the bid. No bid has been made, but has the money to make the bid. When I met with Anne Globe and her team in the week before Easter, we had a very useful, a very frank discussion. She wasn't happy with everything that I had said. I wasn't happy with everything that she had said. But I think we have reached an understanding that she wants to sell the airport. Now, patiently, there is a price. Would that it were that easy, but of course there is a price. And somebody who's buying the airport has first of all got to be able to pay, not necessarily the asking price, that's not how deals are done, but a realistic price. And second, because it's no good coming back to where we are today in 3 months' time with somebody else who's failed, so they've got to have the money to give the airport a fair wind and to really give it the probably couple of years that it will take to turn the project round and to really put it on a firm footing. Laura and I have said very clearly, and I will say to all of you, we will work with anybody, up and including, and I said this in an email to Anne Globe, with her, if she's prepared to give it the 2 years, to pull all the effort, all the strings, bring in all the help we can to develop the business. But my understanding is that she would like to sell, and therefore we need a buyer. It is possible that we found one. Now I have to be, again, very careful because I've been accused in the past of trying to raise false hopes. I don't think I've done that, but it has been a fine balance between generating sufficient interest and hope and determination to succeed without leading people up the garden path into believing that things are happening that are not. Please don't go out of here saying, oh, they found the buyer. But go out of here saying, we think we may have found a buyer. That's fair. There is a meeting taking place of the Thanet Working Group on Monday morning at the House of Commons. At the moment, that is the Manston Working Group. That is a very small group of people, quite deliberately small at this stage. Others will be invited to join in due course. The sole purpose of that meeting is not to discuss any other option at all than keeping Manston open as an operating airfield. Let's be clear about that. This is not a backdoor Plan B exercise, and as long as I'm involved, it never will be. There is one objective. So the Manston Working Group will be meeting on Monday morning for the first time. I have an adjournment debate called The Future of Manston in the evening. The timing couldn't be worse because I need another couple of days, but nevertheless, we are where we are and we have to do what we have to do. On Tuesday, I am told that I'm allowed to say that I am meeting a group of interested people at the House of Commons. And that is all I can say, but we will go from there. There have been flocks of wild geese feeding on shoals of red herrings in the social media, and it hasn't all been helpful. So you'll forgive me if I do what I did with Radio Kent this morning and say no more, but save this. When Laura's spoken, we will take questions from the floor, if you wish us to, and as good politicians, we shall almost certainly avoid answering them.